The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with excited voices. Representatives from 47 different species gathered around a holographic display that showed something remarkable. On the abandoned planet Kareth 7, deep in the outer rim of explored space, their survey teams had found something extraordinary. "It's massive," said Ambassador Threlkon, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the image. "The structure is at least 3 kilometers tall." The hologram rotated slowly, showing a gate made entirely of blue-green crystal. It stood alone in the middle of a vast desert, catching the light of Kareth 7's twin suns. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing with soft inner light. The gate looked ancient, yet perfect. Not a crack or chip anywhere on its surface. "Our analysis confirms it," announced Dr. Zilneth, the Council's chief scientist. Her tentacles moved gracefully as she manipulated the data streams. "This was built by the predecessors." A hush fell over the chamber. The predecessors were legendary. They had vanished from the galaxy over 10,000 years ago, leaving behind only ruins and mysteries. Every species had stories about them, the ancient ones who had helped younger civilizations rise to the stars. "What does it do?" someone asked. Dr. Zilneth's skin changed to a deep purple, indicating excitement. "Our scans detected energy readings beyond our current measurement scales. This gate appears to be a portal, a doorway to another dimension. The energy signatures suggest access to unlimited power and vast repositories of knowledge." The chamber erupted in noise. Unlimited energy could solve the galaxy's growing power crisis. Ancient knowledge could advance every civilization by centuries. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a treasure beyond measure. "How do we open it?" demanded General Krax, his metallic scales rattling with impatience. "That's the challenge, Doctor," Zilneth admitted. "The gate appears to be conscious. It has some form of artificial intelligence, or perhaps something more. It seems to evaluate those who approach it. Over the following months, the greatest minds and strongest warriors in the galaxy traveled to Kareth 7. The Vrelian Empire sent their most decorated champion, Commander Zeth, who had never lost a battle. He approached the gate with confidence, placing his hand on its surface. The gate responded. Its symbols glowed brighter. And suddenly, Zeth found himself facing an illusion. A perfect copy of himself, but stronger and faster. He fought for hours, using every technique he knew, but no matter how well he performed, his opponent matched him perfectly. Exhausted, Zeth finally collapsed. The gate remained closed. The Quillian scholars tried next. They sent Professor Keenmind, who had solved mathematical problems that had stumped scientists for generations. The gate presented him with an equation that seemed to shift and change every time he approached a solution. He worked for days, filling datapads with calculations. But the puzzle had no answer. The gate stayed shut. Diplomat, first speaker of the Harmony Collective, attempted to negotiate. The gate created a scenario where he had to broker peace between two holographic civilizations. But every agreement he reached would cause new problems to emerge. No resolution satisfied all parties. After weeks of trying, first speaker admitted defeat. One by one, they all failed. Warriors, scientists, artists, philosophers. The gate tested each person differently, but the result was always the same. The crystalline surface would glow, create an impossible challenge, and then return to its quiet, closed state. Years passed. The gate on Kareth 7 became famous throughout the galaxy. Some called it the Door of Dreams. Others named it the Portal of Frustration. Scientists built a research station nearby, continuously studying its properties. But no one could open it. The Galactic Council grew desperate. They offered rewards for anyone who could solve the mystery. They sent teams of specialists working together. Nothing worked. Then Earth submitted a request. Humanity had only recently joined the Galactic Council. They were one of the youngest spacefaring species, still learning about the wider galaxy. Many older species viewed them as inexperienced, enthusiastic, but naive. The humans want to try? General Krax laughed when he heard. They've barely left their own solar system, and they think they can succeed where our greatest champions failed? But Ambassador Threlkon, who had worked with humans before, spoke up. Let them try. They have an interesting way of approaching problems. Perhaps fresh eyes will see something we've missed. The council agreed, though mostly because they had run out of other options. Earth sent a small team led by Dr. Elena Vasquez, a xenoarchaeologist who specialized in studying ancient cultures. She brought with her 5 colleagues. Marcus Chen, a former teacher who now worked in cultural exchange. Amara Okafor, an engineer. James Morrison, a linguist. Yuki Tanaka, an artist. And David Cohen, a psychologist. We're not here to conquer the gate, Elena explained to the research station commander when they arrived. We're here to understand it. The commander, a tall Vrelian named Station Keeper Vorn, looked skeptical. Hundreds have tried to understand it. The gate tests everyone and finds them wanting. Maybe, Elena said quietly, looking up at the massive structure visible through the station windows. The gate isn't testing for what everyone thinks it's testing for. She smiled softly. We're not here to prove we're worthy. We're here to learn why the gate exists in the first place. Number 12. Tropper. We're not here to prove we're worth. Number 21. We're 41. Station Keeper Vorn's confusion was evident, but he granted them access. The human team gathered their equipment, not weapons or advanced technology, but simple tools for observation and recording, and prepared for their first visit to the ancient gate. As the twin suns set over Kareth 7's desert, painting the crystal structure in brilliant orange and purple light, Elena and her team stood before humanity's greatest challenge yet. The next morning, Elena's team approached the gate for the first time. Station Keeper Vorn and several other researchers watched from a safe distance, curious to see what the humans would do. Most species had arrived with fanfare, bringing technology, weapons, or complex equipment. The humans carried only basic scanning devices, notebooks, and backpacks filled with personal items. What's your strategy? Vorn asked Elena before they departed. To listen, Elena replied simply. Marcus laughed at Vorn's confused expression. She means it literally. We're going to sit there and observe. Really observe. Really observe. The team walked across the desert sand until they stood before the gate. Up close, it was even more breathtaking. The crystal structure towered above them, its surface covered in thousands of symbols that seemed to shimmer and move in the sunlight. It's beautiful, Yuki whispered, already sketching in her notebook. Elena pulled out her scanning equipment and began taking readings. But unlike the researchers who had come before, she wasn't just measuring energy output. She was looking at patterns, how the light moved through the crystal, how the symbols arranged themselves, how the gate's glow changed throughout the day. Look at this, Amara said, pointing to the base of the gate. The energy flow isn't random. It pulses, like a heartbeat. James, the linguist, was photographing the symbols. These aren't just decorative. They're telling a story. But the language is unlike anything in our databases. David, the psychologist, sat down cross-legged in the sand about 10 meters from the gate. Everyone else rushed to touch it, to activate it. But has anyone just watched it? Elena smiled. Exactly what I was thinking. The team spent the entire day simply observing. They didn't try to solve the gate or force it to respond. They watched how its colors shifted from blue-green in the morning to deeper purple as afternoon arrived. They noticed how certain symbols glowed brighter at different times. They recorded everything. As the suns began to set, Marcus unpacked his bag and pulled out a small framed picture. My daughter drew this, he said. showing the team a colorful crayon drawing of a family. She made me promise to show the gate something beautiful. From Earth. He walked forward and gently placed the picture at the base of the gate. Vorn's voice crackled over their communicators. Dr. Vasquez, what is your colleague doing? Leaving a gift, Elena replied calmly. A gift? For what purpose? Because it felt right. The gate's glow shifted slightly, just for a moment. The change was so subtle that the station's sensors almost missed it. But the humans noticed. The next day, they returned. This time, Yuki brought a small watercolor painting she'd created of the gate itself. She propped it against the crystal surface. I wanted you to see how beautiful you look to us, she said softly, as if speaking to a friend. Again, the gate's colors rippled gently. Day after day, the pattern continued. The humans didn't demand anything. They didn't try to solve puzzles or prove their worth. Instead, they treated the gate like someone they wanted to know. Marcus brought flowers from the station's greenhouse. Earth flowers he'd been growing in his quarters. James played music. Everything from classical symphonies to simple folk songs. Amara shared stories about engineering marvels humanity had built. David talked about human psychology, about how people think and feel. Elena spent hours studying the symbols, but not to crack a code. She wanted to understand what they meant to whoever created them. These aren't instructions, she told her team one evening. They're memories. Each symbol represents something the predecessors valued. By the end of the second week, other researchers were openly mocking the human approach. They're treating it like a pet, one Quillian scientist complained. This is serious research. But Vorn, who had been watching carefully, noticed something the others hadn't. The gate's energy signature has changed, he announced one morning. It's subtle, but measurable. The frequency has shifted to something warmer. Warmer? General Krax demanded, over the communication channel, from the council headquarters. What does that mean? I don't know, Vorn admitted. But in all the years we've studied this gate, its energy has been constant, until the humans arrived. Elena's team noticed it too. The gate no longer felt like a cold, judging presence. When they approached each morning, the symbols seemed to glow, a bit brighter, almost welcoming. I think it's lonely, David said one afternoon. They were sitting in a circle near the gate, eating lunch. Think about it. The predecessors are gone. This gate has been standing here for thousands of years, testing people who only want to use it. Nobody has just kept it company. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. He walked up to the gate and placed his hand gently on its surface. We're sorry you've been alone so long, he said quietly. The gate's entire surface suddenly pulsed with warm golden light. Back at the station, alarms went off. Energy spike! A technician shouted. The gate is activating! But it wasn't creating a challenge or a test. Instead, images began to appear in the crystal vague shapes at first. Then, clearer pictures. They showed a civilization of tall, gentle beings with 4 arms and kind faces. The predecessors. The images showed them building the gate, pouring not just technology, but love into its creation. They showed the predecessors helping other species, sharing knowledge, giving gifts. And then the images turned sad. They showed the predecessors fading away, the last of them standing before the gate, saying goodbye. Tears rolled down Elena's cheeks. Oh, she whispered. You're not just a door. You're a memorial. You're mourning them. The gate pulsed again, and this time, the team could feel it, not just see it. The emotion was unmistakable. Grief. The ancient gate wasn't testing for strength or intelligence. It was grieving for its lost creators. And it had been waiting thousands of years for someone who would understand. The discovery changed everything. Elena's team began approaching the gate differently. They weren't just leaving gifts anymore, they were acknowledging its loss. "We understand grief," Elena said softly, standing before the gate the next morning. "Humanity knows what it means to lose those we love. We're sorry for what happened to your creators." The gate responded by projecting more images. The team watched in wonder as holographic scenes appeared in the air around them. They saw the predecessors at the height of their civilization, a society built on kindness and generosity. The tall, gentle beings traveled the galaxy, finding younger species struggling to survive. They gave freely. Technology, to those who needed it. Knowledge, to those who sought it. Food, to those who hungered. But then the images darkened. Species the predecessors had helped began to argue over the gifts. Some wanted more than others received. Some felt entitled to everything the predecessors possessed. Small disagreements grew into larger conflicts. The predecessors tried to mediate, tried to teach peace. But the arguing turned into competition. And competition turned into something worse. Species that had been friends became enemies, each claiming they deserved the predecessor's legacy more than the others. The gentle beings were caught in the middle. They were not warriors, they had no weapons, no desire to harm anyone. As the conflicts escalated around them, the predecessors simply faded away. Their kind hearts couldn't bear seeing species they loved destroying each other over gifts meant to bring joy. "They died of sadness," Yuki whispered, tears streaming down her face. The final image showed the last predecessor standing before the newly built gate. Through some method the team didn't understand, the gate conveyed the predecessor's final wish, that this portal would remain, offering unlimited knowledge and energy to the galaxy. But it would only open for those who truly understood the lesson that power without compassion leads to ruin. The images faded. The gate pulsed gently, waiting. David sat down heavily in the sand. All this time, it's been waiting for someone who wouldn't repeat the same mistake. Someone who wouldn't take the gift and use it to harm others or claim superiority. "That's why traditional tests don't work," James added, his mind racing through the implications. "You can't measure that kind of worthiness with strength or intelligence. A brilliant mind can create wonderful things, or terrible weapons." Marcus nodded slowly. "The gate needs to know that whoever enters won't corrupt what they find. That they'll use the predecessor's final gift the way it was meant to be used to help everyone, not just themselves." Elena stood up and approached the gate. She placed both hands on its warm surface. "We understand," she said clearly, "and we promise to honor your creator's memory. We ate a." The gate's glow intensified, washing over the team in waves of golden light. For the first time in thousands of years, the ancient structure felt hope, but their moment of connection was interrupted by the sound of approaching vehicles. A convoy of Galactic Council representatives arrived, led by General Krax himself. His metallic scales gleamed in the sunlight as he stepped out, followed by a dozen officials from various species. "Dr. Vasquez," Krax called out impatiently. "We've been monitoring your activities. The gate has shown more response to your team than to anyone in years. It's time to step aside and let experienced specialists take over." Elena turned to face him calmly. "General, with respect, we're making progress precisely because we're not trying to force anything." "Progress?" Krax snorted. "You've been leaving drawings and talking to a machine like it's a child. This is the most important discovery in galactic history, and you're wasting time with sentiment." Ambassador Threlkon, who had traveled with the group, stepped forward. "General, perhaps we should listen to what the humans have learned." "Learned?" A Quillian scientist pushed forward. "They've learned nothing useful. No equations, no technology, no method we can replicate. Just emotional nonsense." Elena took a deep breath. She knew this would be difficult. The gate isn't a puzzle to solve, or a lock to pick. It's a memorial created by a species that died because others couldn't handle the responsibility of their gifts. It's testing for something you can't measure with traditional methods. And what would that be? Krax demanded. Compassion, Marcus said simply. The ability to receive incredible power and not let it corrupt you. The wisdom to think of others before yourself. Several of the gathered officials laughed. Humans, one of them muttered. Always so naive. This is politics and science, not a philosophy class. The predecessors tried giving freely without testing, David explained patiently. It destroyed them. So they built this gate to ensure their final legacy wouldn't cause the same harm. It's waiting for a species mature enough to handle what's inside. And you think humanity is that species? Krax's tone was mocking. You, who have been in space for barely a century, who still have conflicts on your own homeworld. Elena met his gaze steadily. I think humanity understands failure. We've made terrible mistakes. We know what happens when power falls into the wrong hands. Maybe that's exactly why we can appreciate what the gate is trying to protect. Enough of this, Krax declared. He turned to his team. Set up the new testing equipment. We'll approach this scientifically, not emotionally. As the officials began unloading their technology, Yuki whispered to Elena, They're going to ruin everything. No, Elena said quietly, watching the gate. Its glow had dimmed since the crowd arrived, returning to the cool, distant light. It had shone for thousands of years. The gate knows. It's been judging species for millennia. It won't be fooled by force or fancy equipment. Marcus added softly, The question is, what do we do now? We've built a connection with it, but we can't stop the council from trying their own approach. Elena looked at her team, then back at the gate. We continue, showing it respect. We continue honoring the predecessor's memory. And we trust that the gate will make the right choice when the time comes. The gate pulsed once, very faintly, as if agreeing. For 3 days, General Krax and his team tried everything. They brought advanced scanning equipment that could analyze matter at the quantum level. They attempted to recreate the energy signatures the gate emitted. They even brought scholars who tried to decipher the symbols using computational algorithms. The gate remained cold and unresponsive. Meanwhile, Elena's team continued their quiet vigil. Each morning, they would arrive before the others, sitting peacefully near the gate. They didn't interfere with the council's efforts, but they didn't abandon their approach either. On the 4th morning, Marcus brought a collection of letters. Children from Earth heard about our mission. He explained to the gate, his voice gentle. They wrote to you. They wanted you to know that even though they never met the predecessors, they're grateful for what they tried to do. He read some of the letters aloud. Simple words from young humans, expressing wonder, gratitude, and sympathy for the gate's loneliness. As he read, the gate's surface began to glow warmer, the blue-green crystal shifting toward golden hues. General Krax noticed from across the clearing. What are they doing now? He demanded, frustrated by another failed test. Ambassador Threl Khan, who had been observing both groups, said thoughtfully, I believe they're succeeding where we're failing. Nonsense, Krax muttered, but he watched anyway. Elena approached the gate and placed her hand on its surface. We've learned so much from you, she said. About the predecessors, about loss, about why worthiness matters. Thank you for sharing their story with us. The gate suddenly blazed with brilliant light. The symbols across its surface began moving, rearranging themselves into new patterns. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, not threatening, but almost musical. Everyone in the clearing froze. Then, for the first time in over 10,000 years, the gate opened. A doorway appeared in the center of the crystalline structure, revealing a swirling portal of light and color. Beyond it, The team could glimpse vast libraries of floating data, chambers filled with advanced technology, and energy sources that pulsed with unlimited potential. Everything the predecessors had promised was there, waiting. "It opened," someone shouted. "The humans did it." General Krax rushed forward, along with dozens of other officials. But as they approached the gate, the portal began to shrink. The gate's voice, ancient and sorrowful, echoed in everyone's minds. "Only those who have proven themselves may enter." The crowd stopped. Everyone turned to look at Elena and her team. Elena stood before the open portal, her heart racing. This was it, access to knowledge and power beyond imagination. Everything humanity needed to advance centuries in moments. She could step through, right now. But something didn't feel right. She turned to look at the gathered crowd, dozens of species, all watching with desperate hope. The Quillian scholars who had tried so hard to solve the gate's puzzles. The Vrelian warriors who had fought imaginary battles to prove their worth. Ambassador Threlkon, who had always been kind to humanity. Even General Krax, whose frustration came from genuine desire to help his people. Elena made a decision that would echo through galactic history. She turned back to the gate. "Wait," she said softly. "Before I enter, can others come too?" The gate's hum changed tone, almost like a gasp of surprise. Images flickered across its surface, confusion, curiosity. In all the millennia of its existence, this had never happened. Someone had been granted entry and was asking to share it. "I know you're trying to protect the predecessor's legacy," Elena continued. "I understand why you test for worthiness, but I wonder if there's another way." "Mar, maybe other." Marcus stepped forward to stand beside her. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't that we're perfect. It's that we believe in lifting each other up. We make mistakes, but we learn from them together." Yuki added, "The predecessors died because they gave everything at once, without preparation. But what if instead of locking everyone out, we help them understand what you need? What your creators needed?" David addressed the gate directly. "You've been alone, judging each person who comes. That's a terrible burden. Let us help you. Let us teach others what we've learned, not about solving puzzles, but about approaching your gift with respect and gratitude." The gate pulsed rapidly, processing this new concept. It projected an image, a question. It showed the portal open, with various species entering. Some images showed good outcomes, but others showed beings fighting over the knowledge, using it selfishly. "Yes," Elena acknowledged. "Some might misuse it. But closing everyone out doesn't honor the predecessors either. They wanted to help people. They just needed those people to understand responsibility first." She had an idea. "What if we don't guard the gate to keep others out? What if we stay to help others understand how to approach it? We could teach them what we learned about respect, gratitude, and thinking of others. You could still judge each person, but they'd come prepared." Amara nodded enthusiastically. "We wouldn't force anyone through or keep anyone out. We'd just help them see what you're really looking for." The gate was silent for a long moment. The portal continued to swirl, waiting. Then, slowly, the ancient intelligence made a decision. The symbols on its surface rearranged themselves again, and new images appeared, showing the human team standing beside the gate, welcoming others, teaching them. The gate's voice resonated with warmth. "You have shown a wisdom the galaxy has not seen since my creators walked among the stars. You do not seek to conquer or claim. You seek to share and guide." The portal expanded, growing larger and more stable. "I will remain open, but you must help others understand. As you have understood, will you serve not as guards, but as teachers?" Elena looked at her team. Each of them nodded, without hesitation. "Yes," she said firmly. "We will." The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The ancient gate had opened, and humanity had been chosen as its keepers. But what surprised everyone most was what the humans did next. Instead of claiming the knowledge for Earth alone, Elena's team established what they called the Keeper Program. They sent a message to the Galactic Council explaining their vision. Any species could attempt to enter the gate, but first, they would go through preparation with the human team. This isn't about worthiness in the traditional sense, Elena explained during a council broadcast. It's about understanding. The gate doesn't want to exclude anyone. It wants to ensure the predecessor's gift brings healing, not harm. The first to return was Commander Zeth, the Vrelian warrior who had failed years ago. He approached the human camp hesitantly, his pride clearly wounded by having to ask for help from such a young species. Marcus greeted him warmly. "Commander Zeth, welcome back. We're honored you're willing to try again. I don't understand what you want from me," Zeth admitted. "I'm a warrior. I've trained my entire life to be strong, to overcome any challenge. But strength alone didn't open the gate." David sat down with him under the shade of a temporary shelter. "Tell me, Commander, why do you want to enter the gate? What would you do with the knowledge inside?" Zeth paused, considering carefully. "My people face threats. I want to protect them better." "That's a good reason," David said gently. "But let me ask differently. If you gained power from the gate, and another species asked you to share it, what would you do?" The question made Zeth think deeply. Over the next several days, he worked with the human team. They didn't train him to fight or solve puzzles. Instead, they talked about responsibility, about the weight of power, about what it means to help others without expecting anything in return. Yuki showed him her artwork paintings of different species working together. James shared Earth's history, both the beautiful moments and the terrible mistakes humanity had made when power was misused. Amara discussed how technology could build bridges or create walls, depending on the hearts of those who wielded it. On the fifth day, Zeth approached the gate again. This time, he didn't demand entry. He placed his hand on the crystal surface and spoke from his heart. "I understand now. Strength without compassion is dangerous. I want to enter not to prove I'm mighty, but to learn how to better protect all people, not just my own." The gate glowed warmly and opened for him. When Zeth emerged hours later, he was changed. Not physically, but in his eyes, there was a new depth of understanding. "Thank you," he said to Elena's team, his voice thick with emotion. "I thought I knew what it meant to be strong. Now, I understand that true strength is knowing when to be gentle." Word of Zeth's success brought others. Professor Keen Mind of the Quillians arrived, the scholar who had failed to solve the gate's impossible equation. Amara worked with him, showing him that some questions aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to teach humility. "I spent my life believing every problem had an answer I could calculate," Keen Mind confessed after days of reflection. "But the most important truths can't be measured in numbers. They're felt in the heart." Creeding C. When he approached the gate with genuine humility instead of intellectual pride, it welcomed him inside. First speaker of the Harmony Collective came next, the diplomat who had failed to negotiate with the gate's holographic scenarios. Elena worked with him personally, sharing humanity's own struggles with diplomacy. "Sometimes," she told him, "the goal isn't to make everyone happy. It's to ensure everyone is heard and respected." The predecessors learned that the hard way. First speaker nodded slowly. "I was so focused on finding the perfect solution that I forgot the most important part, understanding what people truly need, not just what they say they want." The gate opened for him too. One by one, species that had failed before returned. The humans never turned anyone away. They didn't lecture or judge. They simply shared stories, asked thoughtful questions, and helped each visitor look inward. Some came with anger, frustrated by years of failure. Marcus would sit with them, listening patiently until their anger cooled into curiosity. Some came with fear, worried they would never be good enough. Yuki would create art with them, showing them that worthiness isn't about perfection, it's about sincerity. Even General Cracks eventually came, though it clearly hurt his pride. "I suppose you'll enjoy seeing me humbled," he said gruffly to Elena. "Not at all," Elena replied honestly. "We're just glad you're here. Your desire to help your people is genuine. We just need to help you see that everyone's people matter equally." Cracks spent 2 weeks with the team. It was harder for him than for most. His entire culture valued strength and dominance. But slowly, through patient conversations and shared meals, he began to understand that true leadership means serving others, not ruling them. When the gate finally opened for him, he emerged with tears on his face. "I've wasted so many years," he whispered, "so focused on being powerful that I forgot why power matters at all." 6 months after the gate first opened, the research station on Kareth 7 had transformed into a thriving community. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species lived there, learning together, sharing meals, and supporting each other through the preparation process. The gate stood at the center of it all, no longer a symbol of exclusion, but of shared growth. Its crystal surface glowed with constant warmth, welcoming each new visitor. Elena stood before it one evening, watching the twin suns set. Marcus joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. "Do you ever regret not keeping it for humanity alone?" he asked quietly. "We could have advanced so far ahead of everyone else." Elena smiled. "And become exactly what the predecessors feared, a species with great power, but isolated from others. No. This is better. This is right." She pulled out her datapad and began writing her final report to Earth. "We didn't conquer the gate, we befriended it. We didn't claim its treasure, we shared the path to it. The predecessors wanted to help the galaxy, and they died when others fought over their gifts. We honor their memory not by hoarding what they left behind, but by ensuring everyone approaches it with the respect and love they deserved. True worthiness isn't about being strong enough to open doors, it's about being kind enough to hold them open for others." As she finished writing, a young Quillian child ran past, laughing as she chased Avrelian youth. Behind them, their parents, former enemies from species that had once competed for the gate's favor, chatted peacefully about their experiences inside. The gate pulsed gently, and Elena could swear she felt something like contentment radiating from it. After 10,000 years of loneliness and judgment, the ancient memorial had finally found its purpose again. Not as a test, but as a teacher. Not as a barrier, but as a bridge. And humanity, the young species that had learned compassion through its own struggles, stood beside it not as masters, but as friends, welcoming all who came with open hearts and open minds. The predecessor's final gift had found worthy keepers at last.